The stars looked different from the bridge of the horizon. Captain James Walker had noticed this on every mission, but today they seemed especially strange, almost expectant. His ship, Earth's newest long-range explorer, had just passed Neptune's orbit when the sensors began screaming. "Unknown object approaching, sir," called out Officer Bell. Her fingers danced across the control panel. It's massive. And fast. Nothing in our database matches it." Walker straightened his uniform. "Battle stations," he ordered, his voice calm despite the hammering in his chest. "Sir," Bell hesitated, "it's slowing down. And it's broadcasting something." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a creature unlike anything Walker had seen in his 20 years of space exploration. Blue-skinned with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, the being wore what appeared to be formal attire. "Greetings, vessel of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Trell of the Galactic Confederation. We mean no harm and request permission to dock for diplomatic exchange." The bridge fell silent. First contact. After centuries of wondering, humanity finally had its answer about alien life. 2 hours later, Walker sat across from Trell in the Horizon's conference room. 5 other aliens, each from different species, flanked the ambassador. "We have observed your civilization for some time," Trell explained. "Your development of interstellar capabilities triggered our protocols for first contact." Walker nodded. "We're honored to meet you. This is a historic moment for Earth." Indeed. Trell's upper eyes blinked independently of the lower pair. "However, we must address a concerning matter immediately." The alien produced a small device that projected images of Earth, military bases, naval vessels, fighter jets. Then came historical footage, World War I battles, modern conflicts, training exercises. "You still wage war," Trell stated flatly. Not a question, but an accusation. Walker shifted uncomfortably. "We've made great progress toward peace. Many regions have been stable for decades. But you maintain armies. You design weapons. You train your young to kill." Trell's tone remained neutral, but the 4 eyes had widened slightly. "This is unexpected. Most species abandon organized warfare before achieving space travel." One of the other aliens, smaller with greenish scales, whispered something to Trell, who nodded. "Captain Walker, the Confederation includes 37 spacefaring civilizations. None actively practice warfare. It was abolished centuries ago across known space." Walker frowned. "With respect, Ambassador, how do you handle conflicts? Threats? Confederation peacekeepers manage disputes, but true warfare, the organized, technologically enhanced killing of others, is considered deeply primitive." Trell leaned forward. "It is, in fact, illegal under Confederation law." "Illegal?" Walker's eyebrows shot up. "You outlaw war itself." "Precisely, which creates a unique situation with humanity." The mood in the room darkened. Walker felt a chill despite the regulated temperature. "What kind of situation?" he asked. "We wish to welcome Earth into the galactic community," Trell said. "Your art, your music, your philosophical concepts, all fascinating contributions, but your continued practice of warfare presents a problem." The smallest alien, who Trell introduced as Researcher Nex, spoke up. "Your species doesn't just practice warfare, Captain. You excel at it. Your military history shows patterns that are troubling. You turn disadvantages into advantages. You weaponize everyday objects. You embrace pain that would break other species." Walker couldn't help feeling a strange pride at these words, though he knew he shouldn't. "The Confederation wishes to send a delegation to Earth," Trell continued, "to properly assess your civilization and determine the best path forward for potential membership." "And if we refuse?" Walker asked. Trell's 4 eyes blinked simultaneously. "That would be unfortunate. Isolation is rarely beneficial for emerging spacefaring species. There are entities beyond Confederation borders that would be less diplomatic in their approach to discovering you." Walker understood the implied threat. "I'll need to contact Earth government." "Of course." Trell rose. "We will await their response." "But Captain—" The alien paused at the door. "Prepare them for difficult questions about your species' apparent love of conflict. The Confederation finds it both fascinating and deeply disturbing." As the aliens departed, Walker stared out at the stars again. They no longer looked expectant. Now they seemed to be watching, waiting to see what humanity would do next. Dr. Lisa Moore nervously adjusted her jacket as the alien delegation stepped off their shuttle. 1 week had passed since Captain Walker's message reached Earth, throwing governments into chaos. Now, as the official guide for the visitors, she felt the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. "Welcome to Earth," she said, trying to sound confident. "I'm Dr. Moore. I'll be showing you our world during your stay." Ambassador Trell inclined his blue head. "We appreciate your hospitality, Doctor. Our assessment team is eager to learn." Lisa noticed researcher Nex at the back of the group, four-fingered hands clutching a device that constantly recorded everything. The small alien's eyes never stopped moving, analyzing all they saw. The first 3 days went smoothly. The aliens admired human art, music, and food with genuine interest. They marveled at the variety of Earth's environments and the resilience of its people. But on the 4th day, everything changed. "Today we will study human history," announced Trell. "Specifically, your military development." Lisa led them to the Global History Museum. As they entered the World Wars exhibit, she felt a sudden tension in the air. The aliens moved slowly between displays, their body language becoming increasingly rigid. "You lost 70 million lives in these 2 conflicts?" asked one tall, orange-skinned alien whose name Lisa couldn't pronounce. "Yes," she admitted. "They were our darkest hours, but also led to our greatest period of international cooperation." Researcher Nex stepped forward, pointing to a display about guerrilla warfare. "Your people deliberately hide among civilians, fight without uniforms. In desperate situations, yes," Lisa explained. "When facing a stronger enemy, the weaker side adapts." "Adapts by discarding rules," muttered Nex, making notes. "Fascinating and disturbing." The nuclear weapons exhibit caused the greatest reaction. The aliens physically backed away from the display, showing the power of atomic bombs. "You created weapons that could destroy your entire civilization," stated Trell. His 4 eyes had narrowed to slits. "Yet you kept them, even after seeing their effects." Lisa felt defensive. They actually prevented larger wars through deterrence. No nuclear power has directly fought another since their development. You prevented war by threatening even worse war. The concept clearly baffled Trell. This logic is uniquely human. After the museum, the delegation requested access to military training records. Lisa received permission to show them basic, unclassified materials. In a conference room at her university, she played videos of boot camp training, special forces exercises, and combat simulations. The aliens watched in complete silence. Lisa noticed several of them making the gesture she had learned was their equivalent of shuddering. "Your young people are taught to override their natural avoidance of harm?" asked a female alien with feathery skin. "Military training builds discipline and courage," Lisa explained. "No," said Nex suddenly. All eyes turned to the small researcher. "It does more than that. It creates warriors who function despite fear, pain, and moral hesitation, who adapt to any environment, who keep fighting when other species would surrender." The alien turned to Trell. "Their training doesn't just teach combat. It transforms their psychology. They become something else, something that shouldn't exist in civilized space." Lisa felt a chill. "That's an extreme interpretation. Our soldiers also learn peacekeeping, disaster relief, and humanitarian aid. Yet the foundation is always combat readiness," countered Nex. "Tell me, Dr. Moore, if your world faced extinction, what percentage of your population could be mobilized for warfare?" Lisa hesitated. "In a true existential threat, Most adults could contribute somehow. The aliens exchanged looks that needed no translation. Alarm. "One final question," said Trell quietly. "In your history, has any human society ever completely abandoned warfare? Not just achieved peace, actually dismantled all military capability?" Lisa thought carefully. "No," she admitted. "Even our most peaceful nations maintain some defense force." Nex's recording device made a soft chiming sound as it stored this information. The small alien looked at Trell with an expression Lisa couldn't read. "Tomorrow," said the ambassador, "we would like to visit one of your military facilities. A retired one, if that makes your leaders more comfortable." Lisa nodded, already dreading what they might find objectionable next. As the aliens filed out, she noticed Nex lingering, studying her with unblinking eyes. "Your species," the small alien said softly, "is unlike any we have encountered in the Confederation's history." Lisa couldn't tell if this was a compliment or a warning. The old military base stood silent under the morning sun. Lisa watched as Security Chief Thomas Reed led the alien delegation through the entrance gate. His weathered face remained professional, but Lisa could see the tension in his shoulders. No one had expected the aliens to be so interested in human warfare. "This facility was decommissioned 5 years ago," Reed explained. "It was a training center for special operations." Ambassador Trell walked beside him, 4 eyes constantly scanning the surroundings. "Special operations. Please explain." "The elite soldiers trained for difficult missions," Reed said carefully. "High-risk situations where standard forces might not succeed." Researcher Nex made a soft clicking sound, meaning stealth, sabotage, and targeted elimination. Reed's face tightened. "Among other things, yes." The tour proceeded through empty barracks and training rooms. The aliens examined the obstacle courses with particular interest, asking detailed questions about how humans pushed their physical limits. In the former weapons training facility, they spent nearly an hour studying targets and range designs. "Your accuracy requirements are impressive," noted a tall, thin alien with metallic skin. "Do all humans possess such capabilities?" "No," Reed replied, "but most can be trained to a reasonable standard." As they approached the final building, the Tactics Center, Lisa noticed a dark van parked at the far edge of the compound. Something about it seemed wrong. She nudged Reed, who followed her gaze. "That vehicle shouldn't be here," he whispered, reaching for his phone. Before he could make a call, the van's doors burst open. 6 masked figures jumped out, carrying weapons. Lisa's blood froze as she recognized military-grade rifles. "Everyone down," Reed shouted, pushing Lisa and the nearest alien to the ground just as gunfire erupted. Bullets struck the concrete around them. The attackers shouted anti-alien slogans as they advanced. "Earth for humans. No alien invasion." Lisa saw Ambassador Trell frozen in shock, his blue skin pale with fear. The other aliens huddled together, clearly having no concept of how to respond to violent attack. "Stay here," Reed ordered Lisa, then looked at the aliens. "Don't move unless I tell you to." What happened next stunned everyone. Reed grabbed a metal trash can lid and a broken piece of pipe from nearby. With remarkable speed, he charged toward the nearest attacker, using the lid as a shield. The attacker fired, bullets pinging off the improvised shield. Reed closed the distance and swung the pipe, knocking the weapon away. Lisa refused to hide. She spotted a fire extinguisher on a nearby wall and ran to grab it. One attacker turned toward her, raising his weapon. She pulled the pin and sprayed the chemical fog directly at his face. He stumbled backward, blinded and choking. Security alarms finally blared across the base. The attackers, seeing their advantage disappearing, began to retreat. One fired a final burst toward the alien delegation. Without thinking, Lisa threw herself in front of Ambassador Trell, pulling him to the ground. The bullet grazed her arm. Pain flared hot and sharp, but she ignored it, keeping her body over the ambassador until the shooting stopped. When she looked up, she saw Reed had subdued 2 attackers. The others were fleeing in their van as base security vehicles appeared in the distance. "Are you hurt?" Reed asked, rushing to Lisa's side. "Just a scratch," she said, though blood soaked her sleeve. She turned to Trell. "Ambassador, are you all right?" The blue-skinned alien stared at her with all 4 eyes wide. "You protected me with your own body." "Of course," Lisa said, confused by his surprise. Researcher Nex approached slowly, recording device still clutched in trembling hands. The small alien looked from Reed to Lisa with an expression of both fear and awe. "You neutralized armed attackers with a metal circle and a tube," Nex said to Reed. "And you," turning to Lisa, "used a fire safety device as a weapon, then used yourself as a shield." Reed helped Lisa to her feet as medical and security personnel swarmed the area. "We did what was necessary," he said simply. "That," said Nex, voice barely above a whisper, "is precisely what terrifies us about humans. You don't just practice warfare. You are warfare, even your civilians." The aliens huddled together, watching as Reed and Lisa gave statements to security officers. Their body language had changed completely. They no longer showed mere scientific interest. Now they showed fear. "Your people turn anything into weapons," Trell said when Lisa returned. "And anyone into warriors. We've never seen anything like it." Lisa looked at her bandaged arm. "We did what anyone would do to protect guests." "No," said Nex firmly. "What you did is uniquely human. And now we understand why that is so dangerous." The great hall of the Confederation Assembly glowed with soft blue light. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising tiers, their voices a murmur of concern. On the central platform, Ambassador Trell stood before the High Council, 5 ancient beings who ruled the peaceful alliance of spacefaring civilizations. "The human situation requires immediate attention," Trell announced, his normally calm voice edged with urgency. "My team's assessment is complete, and the findings are troubling." The eldest counselor, a tall figure with translucent skin showing glowing organs beneath, leaned forward. "Summarize your conclusions, Ambassador." Trell activated a display showing Earth. "Humans have achieved remarkable progress in science, arts, and philosophy. They value life and demonstrate compassion." A ripple of approval moved through the assembly. "However," Trell continued, "they retain warfare as a core element of their civilization. All nations maintain military forces. Combat training is honored. Weapons development continues despite knowing their destructive potential." The mood in the hall darkened. "Many primitive species practice warfare," said a council member with feathered ridges along her head. "They typically outgrow it. Humans are different," Trell replied. "They've refined warfare into an art form while simultaneously advancing technologically. This combination is unprecedented." Murmurs of concern filled the chamber. A representative from a gas giant world floated forward. "What risk do they pose to the Confederation?" "I invite military advisor Krill to address this question," Trell said, stepping aside. A hideously scared alien with leathery gray skin took the platform. Krill belonged to the only Confederation species with recent memory of warfare, having abandoned it just 2 centuries ago. "I have reviewed researcher Nex's findings," Krill began, displaying images of human military history. "Humans don't just fight. They transform through conflict. When facing superior enemies, they adapt with shocking speed. They turn everyday objects into weapons. They endure pain that would disable any of our species." The images shifted to show Lisa shielding Trell with her body and Reed fighting attackers with improvised tools. "This incident occurred during our visit," Krill explained. 2 unarmed civilians neutralized multiple armed attackers while protecting our delegation. They didn't hesitate or require orders. They simply acted. A tense silence fell over the assembly. "Even more concerning," Krill continued, "humans have developed unique psychological tools for warfare. They use deception extensively deliberately communicating false information to gain advantage. The counselors looked troubled. Deception was almost unknown among Confederation species, whose evolutionary paths had favored clear communication. They also practice psychological warfare, deliberately causing fear or confusion in enemies. And they have formalized guerrilla warfare, fighting without identifying themselves as combatants. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Such concepts violated the most basic principles of Confederation ethics. Finally, Krill said grimly, "Humans display a quality they call fighting spirit. When facing certain defeat, they often continue fighting rather than surrendering. This makes them unpredictable and exceptionally dangerous." The eldest counselor raised a hand for silence. "What do you recommend, Advisor Krill?" "Complete quarantine," Krill replied without hesitation. The human capacity for violence combined with their technological development makes them an existential threat. Loud discussions broke out across the assembly. A small, hunched figure approached the speaking platform. "Researcher Nex, I disagree with Advisor Krill's conclusion," the small alien said, voice barely carrying over the noise. Silence fell immediately. Nex rarely spoke in assembly. "Humans are dangerous, yes, but they also protected us when attacked, risking their own lives. Their capacity for violence is matched by their capacity for sacrifice." Nex displayed new images: human peacekeepers helping disaster victims, medics treating wounded enemies, protesters standing against their own military. "I believe humans could be valuable allies precisely because of their unique abilities. They understand conflict in ways we cannot. With proper guidance, this understanding could strengthen the Confederation rather than threaten it." The council chambers erupted in debate. Some representatives demanded immediate isolation of Earth. Others suggested trying to help humans evolve beyond warfare. A few cautiously supported Nex's view. After hours of heated discussion, the eldest counselor raised both hands for silence. "We face an unprecedented situation," the ancient being said. "Never has the Confederation encountered a species so advanced technologically while remaining so primitive in conflict resolution." The counselor's eyes swept the chamber. "Before deciding humanity's fate, we require more information. We will test their military capabilities directly, without their knowledge." Ambassador Trell stepped forward. "What kind of test, Counselor?" "One that will reveal whether humans are too dangerous to join our community," the counselor replied, "or too valuable to exclude from it." Colonel Maria Diaz squinted at the holographic display, showing an unidentified ship approaching New Hope, humanity's newest space outpost near Jupiter. The station housed 300 civilians and a small security team of 20 soldiers under her command. "Unknown vessel, this is New Hope Station. Please identify yourself," she said into the communication system. Her voice remained steady despite the tension building in her chest. Static answered. Then a rough alien voice crackled through. "Prepare to be boarded. Your resources now belong to Captain Vex." Diaz exchanged glances with Lieutenant Parker. This wasn't in any first contact protocol they'd studied since meeting the Confederation 2 months ago. "Negative," Diaz replied. "This station is under Earth protection. Any unauthorized boarding will be considered hostile action." The response came in the form of a weapon blast that rocked the station. Warning alarms blared as air pressure dropped in the outer sections. "Battle stations," Diaz ordered. Her small security team moved with practiced efficiency. "Evacuate all civilians to the core chambers." On the alien ship, hidden recording devices captured everything. The pirates were actually Confederation agents carrying out the Council's test. Captain Vex, a veteran of Krill's species, watched humans scramble on his monitors. "They have minimal weapons," his second-in-command noted. "Their technology is primitive compared to ours." Vex nodded. "Begin boarding procedures. Remember, scare them, but cause no permanent harm." On New Hope Station, Diaz gathered her team. "We're outgunned and outnumbered. Conventional defense won't work." "Surrender?" asked a young guard. Diaz shook her head. Not an option. We need to think differently. She studied the station schematics, then smiled slightly. We'll use their advantages against them. Within minutes, her plan was in motion. The team split into pairs, each with specific tasks. Parker led 2 soldiers to the environmental controls. Others moved to the power systems, communications array, and docking bays. When the alien ship latched onto the main airlock, Diaz was waiting, not with weapons, but with data tablets and empty hands. "We surrender," she called as 6 armed aliens entered. "Please don't harm our civilians." The aliens advanced cautiously, surprised by the easy victory. Captain Vex stepped forward, weapon raised. "Where are your other defenders?" he demanded. "This is everyone." Diaz lied smoothly. "We're a research station, not a military base." The aliens relaxed slightly, lowering their weapons. Vex ordered his crew to begin confiscating supplies and technology. They spread throughout the station, finding no resistance, until the lights went out. In the sudden darkness, Diaz disappeared. Vex activated his night vision implant, but something was wrong. The air filled with fine particles that blinded his sensors. "Maintenance powder from the ventilation system," explained Diaz's voice from nowhere. "Perfectly harmless, but it sticks to optical equipment." Around the station, similar scenarios unfolded. Aliens found themselves trapped in decompression chambers, stuck in suddenly activated magnetic cargo fields, or surrounded by security doors that shouldn't have functioned on emergency power. In the command center, 2 aliens discovered their weapons mysteriously malfunctioning after passing through what seemed to be a simple water leak. "Conductive fluid," explained Lieutenant Parker, emerging from hiding. "Disrupts your energy weapons circuits." The humans struck with improvised weapons, tools, fire suppression equipment, even food preparation implements. They moved like shadows, using their intimate knowledge of the station against the invaders' superior technology. Within 40 minutes, Diaz's team had captured all 6 aliens without firing a single shot. They used cargo restraints to secure their prisoners in the main hall. Diaz approached Captain Vex, studying his unusual uniform. "You're not ordinary pirates," she said. "Your equipment is too advanced. Who are you really?" Vex stared at the human with newfound respect and fear. "How did you do this?" "You were outgunned, outnumbered, with inferior technology." Diaz shrugged. "We adapted to our environment and used your assumptions against you. Basic tactical thinking." "Basic?" Vex sounded stunned. "You captured a superior force using maintenance powder and water." In the hidden observation chamber aboard the Confederation ship monitoring the test, Ambassador Trell turned to military advisor Krill with wide eyes. "They improvised a complete defense strategy in minutes," Krill whispered. "They turned their entire environment into a weapons system and captured our agents without killing," Nex added, recording every detail. On the screen, they watched Diaz organizing medical care for an injured alien while simultaneously securing the station and preparing defenses against potential reinforcements. "The test is complete," said Trell quietly, "and far more conclusive than we anticipated." "Yes," agreed Krill, his scared face solemn. "Humans aren't just dangerous. They're beyond anything in our experience. Their minds work differently." "The Council must know immediately," Nex said. "The Confederation has never faced a species like this, one that transforms weakness into strength and treats warfare as an art form." Trell nodded grimly. "The debate is over. We must act before humans expand further into space." President William Foster stared at the document floating in the holographic display. Behind him, the White House Situation Room was filled with Earth's top military and diplomatic leaders. No one spoke as they read the Confederation's Terran Containment Proclamation. "They want to ban us from warfare," Foster finally said, his voice tight with restrained anger. "Not just in their territory, but everywhere. They demand we dismantle our militaries and allow their peacekeepers to handle our security." Ambassador Walker, recently returned from his historic first contact mission, nodded grimly. The Confederation considers war itself illegal, Mr. President. Our continued practice of it marks us as primitives in their eyes. Primitives. General Robert Hayes snorted. We captured their little test ship without firing a shot. Colonel Diaz proved humans can outthink any alien threat. Dr. Lisa Moore, still bearing a scar from the terrorist attack, leaned forward. That's exactly the problem, General. We proved we're too dangerous. Even our civilians think like warriors. The room erupted in heated discussion. Defense Secretary Wilson argued for rejecting the proclamation outright. The UN Secretary-General warned of the dangers of isolation. Economic advisors predicted disaster if Earth lost access to alien technology. What leverage do we have? Foster asked, cutting through the noise. If we reject this, what options remain? Walker sighed. Very few, sir. The Confederation controls thousands of worlds. They have technology centuries beyond ours. If they decide to quarantine Earth, we can't stop them. So we surrender? Hayes asked, his voice dangerously quiet. We negotiate, Walker corrected, but from a position of extreme weakness. Foster rubbed his temples. I want options. Real options that don't include capitulation or isolation. The room fell silent again until General Hayes cleared his throat. Mr. President, there may be a third path. All eyes turned to the weathered military commander. We don't fight the van, Hayes said slowly. We embrace it, but on our terms. Moore looked confused. General, how does one embrace being labeled as too dangerous to join galactic society? Hayes smiled thinly. By making that very danger our greatest asset. He stood and approached the holographic display, bringing up footage from the New Hope Station incident. The Confederation fears our military capabilities, but Colonel Diaz didn't just defend that station. She captured the attackers without casualties. She demonstrated restraint alongside skill. Hayes turned to face the room. What if, instead of dismantling our militaries, we offer them as a service to the Confederation? The proposal hung in the air like a bomb. Foster leaned forward, suddenly interested. Explain, General. The Confederation has no military. They have peacekeepers with minimal combat training. But there must be threats out there. Pirates, rogue worlds, maybe even hostile empires beyond their borders. Hayes displayed a map of known Confederation space. We could offer Earth's forces as peacekeepers, mediators, and if necessary, soldiers. We accept their ban on warfare except when officially sanctioned by the Confederation for peacekeeping purposes. The Defense Secretary frowned. You want us to become mercenaries? No, Hayes corrected. Specialists. The one species that understands conflict well enough to prevent it, or end it quickly when prevention fails. Foster studied the general's face. You think they'd accept this? They're pragmatists, Hayes replied. Their proclamation shows they fear us, but also that they recognize our unique abilities. If we present this properly, they may see the advantage of having humans handle the dirty work they find so distasteful. Dr. Moore nodded slowly. It's psychologically sound. The Confederation species evolved without our aggressive tendencies. They genuinely don't understand conflict the way we do. Walker looked thoughtful. It would give us a valuable role in their society while preserving our dignity. Foster stared at the proclamation again. The document that had seemed like a death sentence for human autonomy now looked different, a potential opportunity. Draft a response, he ordered. We accept the warfare prohibition with one condition. Humans will serve as the Confederation's peacekeepers. We'll handle what they can't or won't do themselves. Hayes nodded approvingly. We turn our greatest liability into our greatest asset. And if they refuse? Asked the UN Secretary. Foster's eyes hardened. Then we negotiate harder. But I think they'll see the logic. They fear what we might do as enemies. Let's show them what we can do as allies. As the meeting adjourned, Foster caught Hayes by the arm. This is a gamble, Robert. The general smiled grimly. Everything with aliens is a gamble, sir. But this one plays to our strengths, human ingenuity and adaptability. The very qualities that make us dangerous make us valuable. Foster nodded. Draft the proposal. Make it something they can't refuse. 10 years passed since the historic agreement between Earth and the Galactic Confederation. The central diplomatic hall on Nexus Station hummed with activity as representatives from 100 worlds gathered for the anniversary celebration. At the center of it all stood Ambassador James Walker, now the senior human diplomat to the Confederation. Walker straightened his formal uniform as Ambassador Trell approached. The blue-skinned alien's 4 eyes crinkled in what Walker had learned was a gesture of friendship. 10 years of peace, Trell said. Many doubted this day would come. Walker smiled. Including you, if I remember correctly. Especially me, Trell admitted. I believe humans were too dangerous to join our civilization. Around them, the proof of how wrong he had been mingled freely. Human peacekeepers in their distinctive blue and white uniforms chatted with aliens from across the galaxy. The special designation of conflict resolution specialists had transformed humanity's place in the stars. The Tauran border dispute, Trell said, gesturing to a tall, insectoid alien speaking with Colonel Diaz, now General Diaz. That would have erupted into violence without your team's intervention. And the pirate fleets in the Outer Rim, Walker added. Confederation peacekeepers had been chasing them for decades, until Captain Reed's task force eliminated their bases in 3 months. Trell finished, using tactics no Confederation species would have conceived. The lights dimmed as President Foster's image appeared on the main screen. Earth's leader had aged gracefully, silver hair framing a face lined with wisdom. 10 years ago, we faced a choice, Foster began. Isolation or integration. Thanks to General Hayes' vision and the Confederation's wisdom, we found a third path. Humans are prohibited from warfare, yet we have become the guardians of galactic peace. Applause rippled through the chamber. Walker noticed researcher Nex watching from a corner, still recording everything as always. The amendment to the Terran Containment Proclamation changed everything. Foster continued. By allowing humans to serve as official peacekeepers, the Confederation harnessed our unique abilities while ensuring they would never be used destructively. After the speech, Walker found himself alone with Trell on an observation deck. Below them, Earth shone like a blue jewel among the stars. Did you ever imagine this outcome? Walker asked. When you first discovered we still practiced warfare. Trell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Never. We feared you would destroy yourselves, or worse, teach other species your violent ways. Instead, we've helped bring unprecedented stability. Because you understand conflict in ways we cannot, Trell said. When the Dralax attacked that border world 3 years ago, our regular peacekeepers were helpless. They had no concept of how to counter aggression. Walker nodded, but General Hayes' team did. They recognized the patterns and neutralized the threat with minimal casualties. That incident convinced the last skeptics, Trell said. The amendment was formally ratified by all Confederation worlds the following month. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched Earth turning slowly below. I must confess something, Trell finally said. The true reason behind the original proclamation was not what you think. Walker turned, curious. Oh, we didn't ban humans from warfare because we feared what you would do to us, Trell said quietly. We banned you because we feared what you would teach us about ourselves. Walker frowned. I don't understand. In all our civilizations, warfare was abandoned as we evolved. But with humans, Trell's voice lowered. Your capacity for violence exists alongside compassion, creativity, and sacrifice. You showed us that these qualities aren't separate but intertwined. Trell gestured to a group of young aliens training under human instructors. Now we learn controlled aggression, tactical thinking, and yes, even combat, but channeled toward protection rather than destruction. You've taught us that understanding conflict is essential to truly preventing it. Walker felt a sudden weight of responsibility. That's a dangerous lesson. All important lessons are dangerous, Trell replied, but necessary. Before humans, the Confederation maintained peace through ignorance. Now we maintain it through understanding. A station's lights dimmed as a ship departed for a peacekeeping mission in a distant sector. On its side, the new emblem of the human peacekeepers gleamed. Earth surrounded by stars, with the words, "That others may know peace," written in multiple languages. "The ban remains," Trell said softly. "Humans are still officially prohibited from warfare throughout Confederation space." Walker smiled. "Except when we're keeping the peace." "Exactly," Trell said, all four eyes meeting Walker's gaze. "The greatest warriors in known space are forbidden to fight wars. Instead, they prevent them. And that has made all the difference."